So welcome you all in the 24th lecture of Embedded Systems. In the last lecture we have studied about the voltage scheduling and static and dynamic scheduling in particular, and we have seen that by using voltage scheduling we can we can cross the dark silicon graph, which restricts in the power and area, right? So that was that was the main use of voltage scheduling. Now your real-time operating system we have seen that it does scheduling nicely, right? It does event driven scheduling and clock driven scheduling, right? It also does the voltage scheduling, right? So what is the main structure of embedded or what is the main structure of a real-time operating system, right? How the real-time operating system looks like in embedded system, right? So that should be the structure should be will be studied today, right? So we already know that the RTOS, basically it is the OS which is for real time, right? So this RTOS, we also seen that we could actually use some existing OS rather than building a complete new operating system for an embedded system, right? So that will take a lot of time, and time to market is an important constraint, right? So what we could do that we can actually borrow some of the functions from the standard operating systems, and we can reuse it, right? So for that we have seen that there are reusability or some reuse or reconfigurable system exist. Reconfigurable system, operating system. So there exist some reusable and reconfigurable operating systems, and they are using the object oriented approach, right? They are using object oriented approach. So what is object oriented approach? So we have a class, and it has certain functions, right? So we could it has a class, it has subclass, and so on. So we can actually use those functions only which are required for a particular embedded application, right? Because so what is the need to actually reuse those particular objects in operating systems? Because if you want to design any embedded system, one operating system does not fit all, right? So one operating system does not fit all functions, right? So what we have to use, we can actually select some of the functions which are required for a particular application. Also, we do not want that so many functions, so many unused function should sit in the RTOS, right? Because that we will never tolerate, because this will actually increase the overhead for that particular operating system, right? So so either you can use this object oriented approach, or there is something called conditional compilation approach. So what is conditional compilation? So so let's say that we are borrowing some of the some existing operating system for our application, and we can actually put some conditions like what are the functions need to be used, right? So we are using such statements such as if or if defined, right? So we will use particularly those functions who are satisfying certain condition, but that is not realistic, right? Because again, as I told, that we should not allow any unused function, that is not tolerable. Then another approach could be the linker time optimization. Linker time optimization. So what is actually a linker time optimization? So this says that you link to a particular functions, right? So your operating system is linked to some functions, right? What are the functions need to be used? So that function only will be used. Now now some of the existing operating systems basically use static data structure. Static data structure. So what is static data structure? So embedded system preferably use static data embedded this is embedded operating system. Okay, so embedded operating system particularly use static data structure. So what is static data structure? Means you want to use the array. Okay, so we are not we don't want to any kind of like linked list and other functions. We just want to use the data in an array, that's it. So that will make simplified, right? So there are some of the any existing reconfigurable static data structures such as VxWorks. Okay, so this is the existing reconfigurable configurable operating system. So what is actually this VxWorks does? Actually it does a very nice thing, that let's say that this is your VxWorks. Okay, so it has a reconfiguration panel, reconfigurable panel. So what you can do in this case, let's say that you want to use this function and you want to use this block also. So all these blocks you combine it and you can reconfigure your for your particular requirements. Okay, but whatever the reconfigured operating system that need to be that need to be properly tested, right? So testing and verification is quite important. Although the original system is tested, but you are choosing some selective functions, so it is very important that you test that reconfigured system, right? Another RTOS is provided by Red Hat. Okay, so which has 100 to 200 configurable points, reconfigurable point, where the program can be or the operating system in particular can be reconfigured. But this is actually, we can say, that downside also. Sorry. So this is the downside also, because we have to, every time we have to check or we have to test and verify that whatever the designed operating system or reconfigured operating system is correct or not, or it's optimized in all terms, right? So if I see the general operating system, it looks like this. Let's say that this is your hardware at the middle, right? And then you have a layer of kernel. So this is your kernel. Okay, and outside the kernel we have the device driver, right? So this is the structure of extended operating system, not embedded operating system. So this is your this is your device driver, and after that there are middlewares and application layers. Okay, and then there are middlewares or applications layer, right? So this is actually the standard operating system. Now, what is the difference between an standard operating system and the embedded operating system? So if I write it down in a standard operating system, and this is your standard operating system, this is your embedded operating system. So I have written here embedded operating system, not RTOS, because all embedded operating system need not to be real time, right? That we have given an example, right? But all embedded operating system need not to be real time. So now, what is the difference between a standard OS and an embedded OS? So in a standard OS, we have first the kernel, right? So we have the kernel. So let me draw it. Okay, so before that, kernel is used to access the hardware, and you can access the hardware through the operating system. Okay, there is no way to access the hardware directly, right? So user puts any applications that cannot be accessed to the hardware, right? So now we have the device driver. Okay, which device we want to access? So kernel will enable that which devices wants to access. So standard OS basically keeps a set of software packages, right, which are used to access basically the hardware or perform some other task, right? All these things are done by operating system, like scheduling and other things. Though the scheduling is different in a real-time operating system, right? Now so here comes your operating system. Okay, so your operating system can access the kernel. Let me complete it here actually. Okay, let me write it here. Okay, so your operating system can go through the device driver or can directly access the kernel, right? Now here is your middleware, and then comes your application layer. Okay, so if you see, no application can directly access the kernel or the hardware, right? It has to go through the operating system in a standard OS. But embedded systems are working in a real time. So in a embedded OS, the application can access the kernel directly. So if I draw it, so this is your kernel, this is your device driver. Okay, and there it comes the middleware. Okay, and here is your application layer. Okay, this is your application layer. So you can see that your application access can either go through the middleware and device driver, or it can directly access the kernel, isn't it? Right. So if a user gives any command, he can directly access the kernel or the hardware, right? So that is the basic difference between a standard OS and embedded OS. Now in a standard OS, we need actually the protection. So what is the protection actually? So there are different program segments which are protected. Okay, protected means protected in all sense. So these are actually protected in a bias limit register in a operating system. But we will see that what is actually protection. So protection is nothing but all program segments are protected. Protected means there should be some means of protection. If the each, so you are writing some program segments for performing some kind of task, right? Operating system is nothing but a package, right? Software package, and it has some lines of code, okay, and that those segments are for performing different tasks, right? So now if those segments are not protected, they could crash, okay, and you could not able to do all the activities, right? So it is very much necessary. If operating system is crashed, you cannot do any activity. But in embedded system, protection is not necessary. Why it is not necessary? Because embedded system is designed for only one application, right? But in standard OS in a standard OS, it has to do many tasks, right? So your PC are performing many tasks. So mouse is there, keyboard is there, and printer is there. So many of the devices are connected, right? So many of the tasks wants to access the hardware, right? So those program segments are protected. So if one program segment is one program segment is accessing a shared resource, that should be protected. At the same time, the other segment will try to access that resource. Erroneous decision can be made, right? But here it is only for one application, so that is not necessary. But nowadays people are talking about protection due to security issues. Now standard OS, there is one more thing that is called as privileged instruction. So what is privileged instruction? So privileged instruction means there are some instructions which are a system call basically, which can be only executed by operating system or kernel mode, right? So these are actually system calls, okay? So those are called as privileged instruction. But there is no privileged instruction needed in embedded system, right? Because because let's say that we have a switch, okay, we have a simple switch, and you are performing some very simple task here. Let's say that load a register, okay. So what it does actually, so if switch is closed, depending on the switch position, if switch is closed, that content of the register is copied into a register, right? So for every task there is no need of privileged instruction in the RTOS, right? So another possibilities in embedded system is so what are the requirements in embedded system? If I talk about the requirements, so the requirement of embedded systems, so one requirement is basically predictability, that we have already seen that the task should be predictable, right? What could be the possible outcome? So possible outcome should be predictable, okay? Otherwise it is not possible to work in a real time, right? Your PC can hang, but it is embedded system is designed to control any real time application. So predictability is most important. Now next thing is that operating system should manage timing and schedulability. Which task will be scheduled when. So this should be managed by the operating system, okay. Third requirement is the operating system embedded operating system, basically I will call it as EOS. So EOS must be fast. Okay. So how can I make it predictable? So for other tasks we can define predictability in a general sense, but what about interrupt? Okay, so what are the interrupts? So the interrupts are actually unpredictable, right? So interrupt, if you see, your interrupts are unpredictable, right? The interrupts are unpredictable. We don't know when the interrupt will come, right? So interrupt comes when they want to access the hardware or kernel, right? So whenever it comes, they will go to kernel, right? So if we provide the kernel access and that hardware is accessed by some other task, so that is not desirable in the case of EOS, right? Because unpredictability is not desirable in the embedded system OS, right? So how can I make predictable? So unpredictability was okay in the case of standard operating system, but we have to make it predictable in the embedded system. Otherwise it is difficult to manage, right? Interrupts. So how can I make it predictable? So there is one possibility that you could disable interrupt, right? So one possibility is, what is the one possibility? You disable interrupt for some time. Sometime means, so for a particular time we will disable the interrupt. There is no interrupt can occur in that particular duration. Okay, but there is a downside of that. So if we keep the interrupt disabled time longer, then what will happen? Some interrupt you can miss. Those interrupts might be important one. Another possibility is to make it predictable. So you make a contiguous file allocation. Contiguous file allocation in the disk. Right. So so in memory, if we are actually accessing randomly generally, but if you make the file management contiguous in a disk, so what will happen? It will access one file, the next file, all files are contiguous, right? So what will happen? The predictability will increase, right? Because we know that what is the time for accessing that particular file, right? Because all the files are in a contiguous manner, right? And because of that, we will get the predictable head movement. Predictable head movement, right? So we know that when that particular task will be reached, right? So all the tasks are in a contiguous manner. So we are actually going towards the predictability. We are increasing the predictability. So till now we have seen about the uniprocessor system. Okay, but there may be multiprocessor, right? So you are seeing the mobile phones, they are having multiple cores, right? So we could actually perform parallel operations, so many tasks can be executed simultaneously, right? So in that, so there are many processors. So let's say that there is one processor, this is another processor, so we are talking about a multiprocessor. Okay, what is multiprocessor? So we have multiple processor performing different tasks simultaneously. Now, what is the most important thing to manage all the tasks, right? So all the processors must be, or all the tasks which are executed simultaneously must be synchronized, right? Synchronization is much important, right? So how can you synchronize all the internal tasks? So either you can use one master clock. Okay, so So one master clock means there is one clock running. This is your master clock, and one task will be executed from the processor one. This task is executed by processor 2, so that all tasks are finished in a with respect to that master clock cycle. Or another possibility is distributed synchronization. For example, all the processors are working at a different clock rate, right? So those must be synchronized, right? So you are actually using different clock cycles, but in a certain time you have to collect information from all the neighboring nodes, right? So what I can do, I have to collect the information, otherwise I will miss that how many tasks are completed, what is their output. That output may affect the another task, right? So we have to collect the information from the neighboring node. Right, and the frequency of that accessing time, like in how much time I have to collect that information, right? So that is called as accessing time, or we can say communication time. Communication time can depend on application. So for example, you have a high-end application, so many millions of the tasks are running simultaneously, right? So what will happen, we have to communicate in a faster manner, right? So it can depend on the application layer, and who manages that? Your application layer. So application layer will give you the information like what is the application, right? So if your application layer is managing the synchronization, your communication time could be larger, right? So if you are performing the communication between application layer and the processor, so communication time can be kept somewhere around 500 microsecond to 5 millisecond. However, if hardwares are communicating to each other, that is internal synchronization, right? This is also internal synchronization only, but the communication is between application and the hardware or processor, right? But here the hardware to hardware communication, the synchronization communication should be fast, right? That must be less than 10 microsecond, and if you are accessing the kernel, and kernel communication must be also very less, so that you can keep it somewhere around 10 microsecond to 100 microsecond, right? So these things we have studied about internal synchronization. Okay, so there is another synchronization that is called as external synchronization. So you are giving the synchronizing pulse, or you are synchronizing all the tasks externally, so that is called as external synchronization, right? So what is that external synchronization, and how can I actually synchronize all the tasks externally? So that is usually done nowadays in embedded system application using the GPS, right? So you are using a mobile phone, right? So for example, you're going in a car, and you want to adapt the traffic system accordingly, right? So you can synchronize the traffic light management and the density of the population coming to one road, that can be managed, or that can be synchronized. So those kind of communication can be thought of an external synchronization, right? This is a broad view, but this is not exactly the external synchronization. So at the user end itself, we are actually synchronizing the different tasks, right? And that is done using the GPS. So GPS, how you can do? So GPS gives you the information, timing information, in the form of TAI and UTC, right? And these timing informations are actually little bit ahead or behind each other, right? So these you when you search UTC of you will get exact information, right? So this will give you the both will give you the timing information, right? So using timing information you can synchronize two different tasks, right now. We have seen that what is the standard OS and what is the embedded OS, EOS, right? But in a when you what will happen in a real time system? Okay, so right now we have seen about standard OS. Sorry, right now we have seen about okay, so let me start. So right now we have seen about standard operating system and embedded OS. As I told that all embedded OS need not to be real time, but what will happen in a real time scenario? So when we talk about real time kernels, right? So what should be the structure of your real time kernels? So let's say that this is your real time kernel, okay, and these are the device drivers. This is your middleware, let's say this is your middleware, and this will be your application, right? So in a real time that your application and middleware should access the kernel, right? It need not to be go through the device driver. That is the meaning of real time. Otherwise, if there is a failure in the operating system, you cannot access the hardware which was working in a real time, right? So your application or middleware can access directly the kernel. That is the difference between and embedded OS and the real time OS, right? So these classification of RTOS basically can be done using the based on the task priority kernel, right? So depending on the priority of each task we can give access to the kernel, right? So if a higher priority task is there, that can access the kernel first, right? And another RTOS can be taken as a standard OS, but there is some extension. For example, we want to coexist both standard OS and the RTOS, right? So but what we want actually, we want to coexist. So some of the applications which are non real time, we can use the standard operating system, and some of the applications which are actually real time, we can use the real time kernels or real time operating system. Now what is the difference actually, and why do you want to go for a standard OS? Because standard OS, first of all, no need to develop, right? Other people have developed it, we have to use it, okay? And it is used for some tasks which are actually non real time, okay? So the idea here is why to develop again different software package. Why can't you use the existing standard OS, okay, for the tasks which are non real time in nature, right? So how can we do that? Okay, so let's say that this is your real time kernel, okay. So here is your device driver, and this is your real time task 1, and this is your real time task 2, right? So these two tasks are real time, so they could access the real time kernel directly. Real time kernel means the hardware basically, and some tasks are actually non real time. So those tasks can go through standard operating system, right? So that's not required that they should get access directly to the hardware, right? So this is your known real time task 1, and let's say this is known real time task 2, right? So they can go through the standard operating system, and the standard operating system has the access to device drivers. Okay, so the device driver also can be different, right? So those device drivers are dedicated for a real-time task, and these device drivers are for standard operating system, right? So this is the basically the major difference between the only RTOS and embedded OS. So in this case basically we want to reconfigure the standard OS, and we want to borrow the some of the functions basically from the standard operating system, and we could use it for a known real-time task, right? So in this case your coexisting your RTOS and standard OS. Okay, so here we finish our another topic, that is real-time operating system, right? So as we have already started about the multiprocessors, right? So what is actually the multiprocessors, and uh, how these processors are synchronized and managed, right? So that we will see in the next lecture, and that is also done by the operating system, right? Again, it is also managed by operating system. So in the next lecture we will study about multiprocessing and multitasking. Okay, so your OS, how the OS tackles these multiple